Hello, readers, and welcome to our bookish oasis. Today, we embark on a transformative journey through the thought-provoking pages of Fight Club by Chuck Palahniuk. Liking my videos is like giving me a virtual high five, and following my channel is like becoming part of an awesome community. So, if you're enjoying what you see, don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave a comment to join the conversation. Bankruptcy, one in a pair of Tyler Durden and the narrator are status on top of the only 190-story Parker Morris building on the edge of total destruction. Tyler is maintaining a gun in the narrator's mouth and urgent, the barrel towards the again of this throat. In the meantime, at the flooring under them, individuals of the Mischief Committee of Mission Mayhem are dismantling the company places of work and throwing workplace fixtures out the home windows. The narrator recites all the approaches to make explosives and counts down the minutes until the constructing goes down in flames. In the ones closing men's, the narrator listens to Tyler recount how they'll be part of records and that they will be well known. As the minds tick by, the narrator explains the anarchy, the gun, and the explosion are actually about Marla Singer. Marla Singer is part of a triangle, and the other contributors are Tyler and the narrator. The narrator has been there from the start, and he recollects the way it all began. The story flashes return to a time some months in advance. The narrator reveals himself in a self-assist organization assembly for guys with testicular most cancers. The organization is referred to as Final Men Together. The narrator is being embraced through Bob, who tells him it's miles okay to cry. Bob is bonding with the narrator as he thinks the narrator has had his testicles eliminated as properly. Bob is crying, and the narrator thinks that he could cry too if he had complained it's like Bob and his life turned into meaningless like Bob's. The narrator is tormented by severe insomnia and handiest appears to get comfort from attending help group conferences. He's in the procedure of remedying his insomnia while he notices a lady on the meeting. The narrator detests her for being a large faker. He knows she doesn't have or has never had testicles. He has also noticed her at all the other assist corporations he attends. The narrator realizes he only receives comfort when he cries, and he cannot cry when there may be some other faker inside the room. The narrator explains that he went to his first help group 2 years ago, after his medical doctor instructed him that insomnia changed into a symptom of something larger and that he have to research what it way to be in real pain. Even due to the fact then, Bob has made him cry, and he has been snoozing like an infant. The advent of Marla Singer is ruining all that. The narrator imagines confronting her at the stop of the assist. Group assembly calling her a vacationer and telling her to get out, as he needs this. Chapter 3 and 4. The narrator travels loads for his task. He is continuously waking up in a unique town. He's living what he calls a disposable, single-serving lifestyles. The narrator often goals of the exceptional methods he ought to die and prays for dying. He makes his living as a do-not-forget marketing campaign coordinator. Using a simple method, he makes a decision whether to don't forget a faulty automobile or pay the damages for each individual declared. This job affords plenty of statistics about shady business practices and gives the narrator loads of process security as an end result. On one of his trips, he's on the seashore and meets a man named Tyler Durden. Via danger at some point, the narrator wakes up on the seashore to look Tyler crafting a hand in the sand out of driftwood. Because the solar beats down at the sculpture to create an excellent shadow, Tyler remarks that moment of perfection changed into really worth the effort, and that a second was the most you could ever expect from perfection. Tyler then gave the narrator his phone variety. The narrator attends his Standard Mind Parasite Support Institution. He discovers that one of the normal participants, Chloe, has sooner or later passed from her contamination. He would be able to delight within the concept that someday you are dwelling, and then next day your worm meals. But there stood Marla Singer. She is ruining yet any other of the narrator's guide, institution conferences. He attempts to participate inside the guided meditation, but whilst he closes his eyes, he only picks Marla there smoking a cigarette. Closer to the quit of the consultation, the organization does healing bodily contact. The narrator jumps on the chance to make contact with Marla Singer. This is how the narrator meets Marla. Bankruptcy 5 and 6. The narrator is flying back from another business experience. His bags are behind schedule due to the fact considered one of them is vibrating. Security for the airline holds the bag and does a non-public seat. It seems it become his electric-powered razor vibrating. After the mess with his luggage, he arrives at his condominium to locate that it has mysteriously exploded, leaving his call, logo property, and IKEA furnishings outdoor at the floor, 15 floors below. The police are asking many questions. They believe the explosion became resulting from a fuel leak that ignited, or perhaps even foul play. The narrator calls Tyler inside the hope that he can assist him together with his homelessness problem. Tyler solutions the telephone and concurs to meet for beers. Tyler says that the narrator can come stay with him, but he need to do him a prefer. Tyler requests that the narrator hit him as hard as he can. A bloody combat ensues. The subsequent morning, the narrator is preparing for a presentation at Paintings. His face is so bloody and stitched up from fighting that his boss will now not let him supply the presentation. The narrator's thoughts drifts to a brand new type of men, Handiest Club that Tyler talked of the previous nighttime. It's referred to as combat membership. The guidelines of the club are easy. The first rule is that contributors do not speak approximately combat club. The second rule of combat membership is the same as the primary, that contributors do not talk about Fight Club, because the weeks pass through and combat membership turns into a nightly reality for Tyler and the narrator, any person does ruin the guidelines. As a result, Combat Club grows and starts increasing to new locations. The narrator realizes that as he travels, he sees beat-up faces in ordinary jobs staring again at him. Bankruptcy 7 and 8. The narrator wakes up to find a condom in the restroom. He realizes that Tyler has met Marla and that they're having intercourse within the Paper Road residence. The narrator tries now not to cognizance on that truth, and as an alternative reads from the stacks of magazines at the house. He stumbles upon a piece of writing in which organs within the human frame talk approximately themselves in the first character. The narrator says that he is Joe's prostate. As Tyler comes into the room and describes meeting Marla and tells him how they simply had intercourse, the narrator responds with, "I am completely Joe's gallbladder." The narrator contacted Marla the night before to look whether she become going to the Melano meeting. Marla tells him he can cross due to the fact she is doing the whole loss of life factor tonight if he desires to watch. The narrator passes on that and attends the assembly handiest to come domestic to sleep and dream of humping Marla Singer all night time. Tyler explains that after he came domestic from his ceremonial dinner shift, Marla referred to as once more to mention she turned into dying. Tyler went over to the Regent Motel to save her. Marla and Tyler make the extremely good getaway because the paramedics were coming to rescue her from dying's door. Marla told Tyler he must keep her up all night because if she falls asleep, she will be able to die. The narrator decides to fax Little Hikos round to all people inside the workplace. He resents the reality that he has ended up a totally zen individual and no one around the office noticed. They were all distracted by means of the dry blood on his pants and the large hollow in his cheek that never appears to heal because the boss sends him domestic to get changes. The narrator wonders if Tyler and Marla are the identical character. He decides that they can't be as they may be constantly humping in Tyler's room. He notes that he never sees Tyler and Marla within the equal room. Marla continues hanging across the house increasingly more because the days move on. And positive enough, when Marla leaves the room, Tyler seems asking if the narrator has gotten rid of her yet. Then Tyler starts to plot ways to take revenge on the narrator's oppressive boss. The narrator insists that he's above it and does not want revenge. Tyler says that sticking feathers up your butt does now not make you a chook. At some point of this communique, Tyler pulls sandwich baggage from the freezer and starts evolved boiling the contents. This seems to be fats that Tyler is boiling to skim off the tallow that rises to the top. Marla again appears and interrupts. Tyler disappears. The narrator gets very angry at her and tells her to head away. Marla pleads with the narrator to please call her as they actually need to talk. The narrator concurs to assuage her. While she leaves, Tyler seems again and asks the narrator to do him a favor. Tyler asks the narrator by no means to speak to Marla about him and threatens to vanish for proper if the narrator ever speaks of him. The narrator concurs, and Tyler proceeds to offer him a chemical burn within the form of a kiss at the again of his hand. Bankruptcy 9 and 10. As the lie at the back of the narrator's hand sears his skin, Tyler name-callings and urges him to experience the pain. The narrator tries desperately to fall into his guided meditation to take his mind off the pain, but Tyler continues pulling him again to reality. Tyler reminds him that the pain is human sacrifice and that at some point the narrator will die. Tyler says the narrator is not any appropriate to him until he realizes his mortality. Tyler tells the narrator that through understanding that he too will die, he's one step towards hitting rock backside. Tyler and the narrator are on a stopped elevator. Tyler unzips his pants and proceeds to urinate within the soup they are about to serve to a few dignitaries. The narrator delights inside the truth that they have become guerrilla terrorists of the provider enterprise. They're dinner party saboteurs because the narrator calls them. The narrator remembers Tyler's first experience as a minimum, salaried despoiler. Tyler turned into working a feast where he pees within the hostess' favorite fragrance. He leaves her an anonymous note announcing he did so, but does no longer indicate which one of the many bottles had been contaminated. The hostess goes absolutely nuts and destroys all of the bottles, blaming her husband for the horrible act. The hostess cries and asks who would hate her so much as to do that humiliating element to her. Tyler's project was accomplished. Chapter 11:12. Tyler is making some real money selling the cleaning soap from his kitchen concoctions. The local department store installed a huge order with Tyler for the holiday season. Tyler and the narrator are sitting in a vehicle at a used car lot going to and fro approximately what Tyler did to Marla's mom. The narrator recollects the activities of the evening for Tyler. First, Tyler cast Marla's signature on a telegram to her mother. The telegram stated, hideously wrinkled, "Please assist me." Then, for no cause, Tyler dispatched Marla's mom a 15 box of sweets. The narrator has no concept why Tyler has accomplished this till Marla pops by way of and asks to save a few fat in the freezer that her mom harvested and gave to Marla for plastic surgical procedure. It's miles then that the narrator realizes that Tyler has been skimming the fat shipments and using Marla's mother's fat ass to make the cleaning soap to fill his orders. Marla appears inside the freezer and sees that it is full of fat. The narrator explains to Marla that they may be boiling the fats to make cleaning soap out of it. Marla goes loopy and chases the narrator out of the house. He runs and runs till he eventually unearths Tyler and fills him in at the state of affairs. The narrator is sitting at work processing a recollect letter for an vehicle when his boss comes in and starts reading from a bit of paper. The narrator just stares at his boss, noticing that it must be Tuesday as he is sporting his gray tie. Evidently, the narrator forgot to eliminate the original from the replica gadget. The boss is reading the guidelines of Fight Club. The narrator's boss then receives in his face and waves the paper around, asking if he is messing around on organization time. The boss asks what goes on with him. The narrator responds through saying that if the boss is sensible, he would be careful who he pointed out this with. Glaringly, says the narrator with a smile, there may be a disease psycho in the office. He have to use warning. The insomnia is again, and the narrator attends a remaining guys collectively meeting to get a few comfort. Massive Bob comes up and greets him. The meeting room is empty. Bob explains that the organization has been disbanded. However, the suitable news is that there may be a brand new group. The primary rule of the brand new institution is which you aren't meant to speak approximately the new organization. As Bob is reciting the rules of Fight Club, the narrator goes via his thoughts reciting Tyler's agenda. He wonders whilst he could have time to hold different fight membership conferences. Then Bob tells the narrator that the regulations were made up through the inventor, Tyler. However, no one that Bob knows has ever seen him. Chapter 13 and 14. The narrator gets an urgent name from Marla. She requests that he come to the Regent Inn and do her a prefer. Marla asks the narrator to sense her breasts as she thinks she has most cancers. Certainly, she had a lump. The narrator tells her funny testimonies to cheer her up. However, Marla is not guffawing. Marla glances at Tyler's kiss mark at the narrator's hand. The narrator notices that Marla also has one on her hand. Marla began going to assist organizations after she located her first lump. That is now her second lump. After she discovered the first lump, she went to the public health center. It was a sad and pathetic scene, and she or he decided that if she was loss of life, she did not want to realize about it. Marla stated that she might regularly answer the smartphone and there might be no one there. She stated that was the human being's past trying to attain out to her. This passed off greater regularly than one would possibly suppose. A detective began calling the Paper Road residents, asking questions on the condo explosion. Tyler sits next to the narrator, feeding him solutions to the detective's questions. The narrator is making an attempt desperately to influence the detective that he had not anything to do with the explosion. At the same time as Tyler is whispering approximately forsaking worldly possessions and being really unfastened from patron culture. The detective tells the narrator not to go away town. Bankruptcy, 15 and 16. The president of the Movie Projectionist Union brings Tyler into his workplace to put him off. Tyler essentially tells him that is pleasant as long as they keep sending him his paycheck. The boss is baffled via this. However, Tyler had the knowledge that loads of movies had single-frame flashes of pornography in them. Tyler has nothing to lose through blackmailing the boss. Tyler advises the narrator on what to say to his different boss on the inn. The narrator goes to confront the manager. The manager gives him 3 minds of his time. However, in the first 30 seconds, the narrator manages to tell him all the vile things completed to the food they served their important visitors. Again, the narrator feels Tyler's words popping out of his mouth as he threatens to offer a coronary heartfelt confession to the local newspapers. The supervisor tells the narrator that he would not want him running there anymore anyway, thinking about the way his face appeared. All of a surprising, the narrator pounds himself in the face. He then punches himself time and again. He starts to revolve giggling as blood splatters on the carpet. He pleads with the supervisor no longer to hit him once more. The supervisor struggles to get away from the narrator. However, the safety guards stroll in only in time to look the manager together with his palms at the narrator. The narrator remembers acts of public mischief said within the paper. An increasing number of acts are reported every week. The narrator wonders whether or not those are homework assignments for the members of Tyler's new assignment, Assignment Mayhem. The goal of the venture is to train every guy concerned that he had the energy to control history. The venture has diverse committees within, and every committee is in rate of creating an exceptional type of chaos in society. Chapter 17 and 18. Once more, the narrator is faced by his boss, who sets a piece of paper on his table. This time, the office work that Tyler wanted him to duplicate is a listing with instructions on what gadgets to deliver to the paper Avenue House. Tyler needs the narrator to make a ton of copies of this page, and then Tyler transforms the basement right into a barracks kind environment. Quickly after, a younger man shows up on the front porch of the house. Tyler denies him entry and demeans him, telling him he is too younger. The person stays in tomorrow. Tyler is demeaning to him again. Finally, on the 3rd day, Tyler says to seize his stuff and our available interior. This is the system that Tyler says will take area with all the candidates. One Friday nighttime, the narrator falls asleep at his desk. His boss is on holiday, however requested him through Anarchy 70, 757, 750. On 968,270, 1 Bohemian 862,000, 962,907. He's Joe's whole loss of surprise. Tyler is at the cell phone and tells the narrator that the men are watching for him in the car parking zone. The narrator smells fuel on his hands. Within the parking lot, the combat membership mechanic is watching for him with a Cadillac. 3 area monkeys also are in the car. The narrator asks where Tyler is, and the distance monkeys reply that the ultimate rule of Task Mayhem is that you don't ask questions. The narrator starts wondering the mechanic approximately who makes up the guidelines. The mechanic replies that the narrator is aware of who makes up the rules. The mechanic proceeds to play chicken with oncoming site visitors. He asks the narrator what he needs. He could have finished before he died. His job, the narrator says. He needs he might have ceased his job. He needs he have been dead. The mechanic swerves to hit any other automobile, but the bumper's handiest clip, they crash. Bankruptcy, 19 and 20. Once they get again on the road, the narrator asks if that was part of a homework challenge. The mechanic's solutions, yes, it changed into part of it. His mission is to make 4 human sacrifices that nighttime and then select up a load of fats. The mechanic asks the narrator if what he stated approximately his task is true. The narrator spoke back that it's far genuine. Next, they go to the clinical waste unload on the lookout for liposuction fat. The plan turned into to steal the fat human being spent a ton of cash to have sucked out, after which use it to make soap to sell returned to the folks that paid to have it taken out. All of a sudden, the narrator reveals himself standing with a gun pressed to Raymond Hessel's temple. The narrator had completed the whole thing the mechanic stated to do, along with buying a gun. The narrator's project was to make 12 human sacrifices, and Raymond Hessel turned into one among them. The narrator waits for him to get off work at his minimal salary process at the convenience keep. Then the narrator describes how he holds Raymond up and asks for his pockets. At this factor, he begins digging through Raymond's life, wondering if he has anything to live for. Raymond has a scholar card from a university in his pockets. The narrator questions him about why he isn't always in college. He proceeds to ask Raymond what he desires to be whilst he grows up. Just as Raymond feels he is on the point of loss of life, he stammers that he wants to be a veterinarian. The narrator tells Raymond that he has his license and is aware of wherein he lives. The narrator explains that he intends to check back with Raymond, and if Raymond isn't on his way to turning into a veterinarian, then the narrator will kill him. The narrator then says he would rather kill Raymond than see him work every other day in a crappy activity, making simply enough money to eat cheese and watch TV. Chapter 21 and 22. The narrator is going approximately his commercial enterprise. He travels and plays his little task as a recall marketing campaign coordinator. The narrator hasn't seen Tyler in a while, however. As he travels from town to metropolis, he sees humans with bashed-in faces and asks them all whether they have seen Tyler. The narrator is confused as no person says they have got visible Tyler, but they all name him Sir and deliver him a wink. The narrator unearths himself in Seattle. He walks into a bar simplest to be greeted with the aid of the bartender with a welcome back, sir. The narrator is sure that he has by no means been to this bar before. Whilst he asks the bartender whether he is aware of Tyler Durden, the bartender asks if this is a test. The bartender then calls him Mr. Durden and tells him that he was inside the bar final week. The bartender holds up his hand. The narrator can see a kiss. Mark is seared into the return of it. The bartender tells the narrator that he become in there last week, asking about whether the Seattle police have been about to close down Fight Club. The narrator rushes to call Marla. He asks how things are going at the Paper Avenue residence. She tells him that the distance monkeys are all shaving their heads. He asks her whether or not they have slept collectively. Marla is disgusted, accuses him of ignoring her, tells him that he stored her lifestyles and that he boiled her mom. The narrator asks Marla what his call is, and she or he replies Tyler Durden. She then proceeds to provide his deal with on Paper Avenue. He then asks how she were given the scar on the lower back of her hand. She replies that he kissed it. In bed at his resort in Seattle, the narrator's insomnia was kicking in once more. He became now not certain if he had slept in any respect or if he became napping then. Tyler is standing subsequent to his bed, telling him that the police problem have been taken care of. The narrator asks if Tyler has been following him. Tyler said he desires to realize the same element and then chastises him for breaking his promise and talking about him to different humans. Tyler tells the narrator that whenever he falls asleep, Tyler runs amok. Tyler started fight clubs all over the country and has chapters of Mission Mayhem in all of the main cities. Tyler did this all, even as the narrator slept. The narrator asked why the police wouldn't be cracking down on fight membership in Seattle anymore. Tyler spoke back that the Assault Committee of Venture Mayhem had taken care of the problem. The committee hunted down the police commissioner and threatened to castrate him. Tyler says in no uncertain phrases that he is dwelling inside the narrator's frame. Chapter 23 and 24. The narrator makes it back to the paper roadhouse into Marla. The whole thing is falling into overall chaos. The narrator is afraid to look within the fridge as he suspects he may additionally discover the stays of Tyler's castration threats. The narrator attempted to speak to Marla approximately what goes on, for she simplest acknowledges his as Tyler. The narrator notices that the distance monkeys are retaining a near watch on him. The narrator takes Marla to a eating place to reveal her his driving forces license and give an explanation for that he isn't always Tyler Durden. She is pressured as to why some people name him Tyler and others recognize him by using his actual call. The narrator tells Marla that Tyler is a cut-up persona his thoughts created, and now he is threatening to take over his life. Every nighttime he is going to bed a bit in advance is extra time that he lives as Tyler. The narrator asks that Marla maintain him conscious so Tyler cannot take control. In the event that he falls asleep, the narrator instructs Marla to follow him and pay attention to all of his movements. Massive Bob, or Robert Paulson, was on a standard chill and drill assignment. This was the identical method of freezing locks and shattering them that Tyler used to get into the narrator's apartment earlier than he blew it up. Bob changed into the use of a cordless electric-powered drill to complete the assignment, whilst the police mistook it for a gun and shot and killed him. Not anything could tie Bob to Project Mayhem. All members knew it's miles away higher to be shot and killed than get arrested. If you're arrested, you are thrown out of assignment mayhem. The crowd at Fight Club chants Bob's call in remembrance of their hero. The narrator steps in and attempts to place perspective on Bob's dying. He tries to make it real for the participants and tells them that fight membership has served its purpose and that task, mayhem, ought to be canceled. The individuals keep on notwithstanding the narrator's announcement to halt activities. The narrator is evicted from the membership and realizes that combat clubs cross on all around the country with or without Tyler Durden. Bankruptcy 25 and 26. The narrator and Marla conceal out in room 8G at the Regent Lodge. The narrator struggles to live wakeful and combat off Tyler. He pops a few tablets. Then they decide to go bowling to bypass the time and maintain him occupied. As they depart the motel, the table clerk says, "Suitable night, sir." The narrator knows the contributors of Mission Mayhem are maintaining song of him. The narrator arrives to paintings to locate police barricades surrounding the building. The police are asking questions. The narrator sees a smoldering table putting out of one of the blown-out office home windows. He knows his boss is dead. He is aware of this because Tyler is aware of this. The narrator confesses to understanding Tyler changed into going to kill his boss. The narrator is aware of that the police could be seeking out him. He was the ultimate character in the building, and while he woke up at his table, Tyler began telling him that the mechanic was waiting for him in the parking zone. He smelled fuel on his hands whilst he left the workplace. In addition, whilst he said he might have stopped his activity, he basically gave Tyler the move beforehand to kill his boss. The problem is that the narrator truly appreciated his boss. The narrator boards a bus to keep away from being confronted by using the police. Then he notices that among him and the driving force are approximately 20 guys, all with shaved heads. The bus driving force turns around and says to the narrator, "Mr. Durden, I genuinely appreciate what you're doing. You have to forgive me for this. The committee says this is your personal idea, sir." The men with the shaved heads flip in the direction of the narrator. They may be preserving ether-soaked rags. The mechanic is keeping a knife. The mechanic says, "You already know the drill, Mr. Durden. You said it yourself. You said if every person attempts to shut down the club, even you, then we should get him through the nuts." As police sirens close to, the narrator struggles to loose himself from an inevitable castration by the Gap monkeys. The police arrived. The narrator is relieved because he thinks he is sparred. Rather, the cops are in on the whole thing. They are saying to make it short, as there's a warrant out for the narrator's arrest. One of the space monkeys sets his four-stall watch to be aware of the time it takes to carry out the act. They have the time perfected. It is brief as a flash. The narrator struggles to get out one of the bus windows as the Gap monkeys strive to tug him again in and yank his pants down on the equal time. The narrator attempts a few guided meditation to take his mind away from this horrible act. Alternatively, he just passes out. Bankruptcy 27 and 28. The narrator wakes up on the concrete subground of his exploded condominium. He has his clothes on and tries to experience around to see if he's nevertheless intact. He is relieved to find that he nonetheless has all of his frame elements. Because the narrator stares out from the 15th floor of his burned condominium, he assesses his existence. He's overdrawn on the bank, has no home or process. His boss is useless, and the sector goes crazy. He could end all of it with the aid of stepping over the edge. But then he thinks of Marla. Marla loves him, or she loves Tyler. The narrator has to make sure she is aware of there may be a difference between the two of them. The narrator contacts Marla and says they ought to meet to talk as he thinks she can be in threat. Marla meets him on the region in which they first met, Bowel Most Cancer's nighttime. When the meeting is coming to a close, Marla walks across the room and slaps the narrator within the face. She screams that she saw him kill a person these days. The narrator assumes she is talking about his boss, and he agrees. Then Marla says, "I noticed you shoot a man this night." The narrator has no idea what she is speaking approximately. Marla says that she observed the narrator to the Pressman Motel, and he turned into a waiter at a murder, thriller theater party. When the homicide scene turned into to take location, the narrator shot the mayor's unique envoy on recycling. Pissed off, the narrator shouts that he is making an attempt to store Marla's lifestyles. She can't recognize why she wishes saving. The narrator explains that on account that she has been following Tyler and has seen the terrible matters he has achieved, he has motive to damage her and all of us else who threatens mission mayhem. Tyler may additionally have given the Gap monkeys orders to kidnap her. Marla inquires as to why he cares what takes place to her. The narrator responds that he thinks he likes her. The narrator receives in a rush to leave and says that he has to take care of Tyler. Patrick Madden became the narrator's victim. It seems that Patrick changed into working for the mayor and compiling a listing of combat club assembly places. The narrator feels horrible about his dying, so he reveals a fight club assembly to attend. He registers to fight each man in the region that nighttime for a total of 50 fights in all. As the first fighter keels his head into the ground and holds him in a full Nelson, recollections of Patrick Madden lying lifeless on the ground come returned to him. Patrick's wife idea, the entire scene became a part of the homicide. Mystery dinner. She did not realize he turned into really shot until she tasted a number of his blood in her mouth. The narrator fights Fight Variety 2 and then Combat Quantity 3. Fighter quantity 3 pounds in kilos until the narrator's teeth slice part of his tongue off. It falls onto the floor. The narrator keeps preventing trying to be dead. Chapter 29 and 30. The narrator is a bloody mess on the ground of the Paper Avenue residence. Tyler tells him to get up. The whole thing inside the room is long past. The space monkeys are all long past. Tyler says that it's time to do his entire martyrdom demise thing he has been looking forward to. The narrator pleads for Tyler to just put him out of his distress proper there, but Tyler has bigger plans for his dying. The narrator and Tyler are again on top of the Parker. Morris constructing. Tyler is keeping a gun inside the narrator's mouth. To onlookers, it seems like the narrator is conserving a gun in his personal mouth. Marla followed him and brought the human beings from the assist organizations to strive to speak the narrator out of committing suicide. The narrator yells for them all to get out of the building as it is going to blow. The narrator tells them that he isn't always killing himself. He is killing Tyler. It's not love or anything, Marla shouts. However, I suppose I really like you too. Marla says she is aware of the difference between the narrator and Tyler, and it's Miles the narrator she likes. Just because the narrator is expecting an explosion, he realizes that Tyler need to have combined the nitro with paraffin. Paraffin by no means works. In preference to experiencing an explosion, the narrator pulls the gun's trigger. The gunshot tears out the narrator's cheek, leaving him with a crooked smile. Now, the narrator convalesces at a mental institution. He refers to his psychiatrist as God. The narrator says that God speaks to him from throughout his lengthy walnut desk and asks him why he induced a Lot 8. Did not the narrator realize that all of us is sacred? The narrator responds, we aren't unique. We aren't crap or trash both. We simply are. We just are, and what takes place just happens. God replies that he is wrong. Yeah, whatever, the narrator thinks. You can't educate God, whatever. From time to time, a person with a black eye or a stitched forehead brings the narrator his lunch tray and remedy. In a whisper voice, the narrator hears, we omit you, Mr. Durden. The whole thing is going according to the plan. We are going to interrupt up civilization so we can make something higher out of the sector. We sit up for getting you returned. Reputedly, Fight membership lives on.